Doctor, thank you very much for your talk. Can we do a couple of questions?
Yes,
Yes.
of course.
Let's sit down and have a couple of questions. I'm so happy. I'm so happy, and I feel the energy since you walked in, Doctor. I'd like to start off first off with a question surrounding the time we are. We are in tough times.
Yes.
And as you know, I have a very large entrepreneurial community, and a lot of people have had a very bad year in many sense. Some in health, some in family, some even in business. And usually, when you are in a difficult moment, the negativity inside your head is hard to. It takes over, and it's easy to say stop thinking about that or move on. But the difficult part is not what to do, but how to do that. So I would like if you can give us a small answer to what would you say to somebody that has not had their best year and is currently at that point.
This is a beautiful question, Carlos. There's a lot of people who are being challenged on that level. And it has to do with brain chemistry. As human beings, it is important for us to take care of our brain chemistry. But the rule of thumb is this. The simplest way is this. The breath, the human breath, is the king of the mind. When we're going through these emotions, whether it's fear, anxiety, and we're going through this pain that people are going through, you want to take care of your own mind, because your mind is one of the most powerful things that you have. And the breath, how you breathe, will determine how much control you're going to have upon your mind. The moment you control your mind, you control every processes of your body. So in essence, when a person learn the simplest art of reducing the breath to 7 breaths a minute, just 7 breaths a minute, and then stay with that even for 3 minutes a few times a day, what happened? The moment you do that, you're going to control your biorhythm, your physiology. You're going to control your emotions. The key is emotions, because this is an emotionally charged time. Everything you look at is emotions. All the news is raw emotions. You look at your WhatsApp, it's emotions. Everything is emotions. So emotion can make you or destroy you. And the simplest way to do that is when you use the breath, when you bring rhythm in the breath, you control your biorhythm, your physiology, and your emotions. The moment you control your emotion, it's difficult for you not to feel good. It doesn't matter what happened, because you have now a more expanded perception of reality, which means you're rising from the basement or where you are to the 7th floor. And suddenly you have a view of things. So you start now sometime looking at your obstacles as solutions to your problem. Sometimes a problem is a solution to a much bigger problem. So when you change your emotional life through the rhythm in the breath, then you change your feelings, how you feel, whether you feel bad, you don't feel good. When you change your feelings, automatically, there is a relationship between your heart and your brain, which is causing you to start thinking with your heart. And you start feeling with your brain. And then you find a pathway out of problems, which means that a pathway is created in the brain out of a problem, because you start to see things differently. You have a different perception of what it is you're faced with.
Beautiful. Doctor, you said something when you were speaking that really, I felt it, because you said there are some problems that money just cannot buy.
Yeah.
And to go further into that, I'd like to double click on that. Usually CEOs, business owners, they believe that everything can be solved by money. And so the first question around that is, how do you control the ego of success, which is one of the problems? And second, what do you tell the business owners, the very successful business owners, once they're in front of that problem that cannot be solved by money?
This is a wonderful question. I love it. The most important thing is we should never let success get to our head, and we should never let failure get to our heart. The moment you let failure get to your heart, it'll destroy you. The moment you let success get to your head, you cannot see anymore. You're blinded because the ego takes over. The one thing that happens when we become successful, we're tempted, because it's important to be successful while by sticking to your principle and your values. You don't want to never lose. You should never lose your values and your principle when you become successful. You have to be authentic. Authenticity demands for you to have a certain level of integrity, because integrity is not something you learn in school. Integrity, every corporate, every leader of the 21st century must have integrity, must have a capacity for vision, and must have intuitive intelligence, which is the capacity to be able to know that something beyond the five senses, which means that you have to develop that capacity of sixth sense, which means when both brain come together, and then when all of the logical part and the east and west brain, you have to be able to go beyond in order to be able to resolve things. It is the humility that we have to realize that the best thing we know is we know nothing. That is true all the time. Because the moment you think that you know everything, you destroy all capacity of knowing, and automatically you're starting to fall. That humility that comes in realizing that when you realize that the best thing you know is nothing, and that nothing is better than nothing, and nothing is as good as nothing, allow a person to become humble. And in that humility is your power. Your power to recognize that there is a limitations, and then to break out of your comfort zone and be open to accept help from someone else, help from a higher power, help from another source, or help from what they call inner wisdom. But that comes with humility. That comes with understanding that the best thing we know is nothing. That comes with understanding that there is so much more to learn. That comes with understanding that everything we know is 1% of the whole story.
Doctor, when we are hiring people from our staff, we do, I don't know, interviews, tests, we do all the numbers. And somehow, every now and then, a bad person, somebody with negative emotion or someone with a negative context, comes through and gets inside the organization and it's a cancer inside the organization. I've personally witnessed this with a candidate that did go through more than 5 interviews and asked for very specific conditions. We gave everything to them. And when we got that person in the company, complete failure, and it cost us years of work, destroyed the culture. So this leads me to 2 things. First of all, when you are reading people, when you are getting to know somebody, how can we further get in touch on the emotion of that person, or how can we better understand that human being, not on the number side, but on the personal or the energetic side? How do you read people? And the second part is, when you have somebody that is destroying the team, how do you separate that energy from a team?
Yeah. Yes. Once in a while, some people make it through. That's true. A human being is a very complex mathematical equations. A human being is a book. And the best way to read that book, to understand that book, is with love. And the same way that the best way to understand mathematics is to love mathematics, the best way to understand science is to love science, the best way. When you love a person unconditionally, what happens is everything that is hidden in them will come out, which means that you're going to see everything that's hidden. When you move to just when you move from loving with passion to loving with compassion, which means loving with some level of consciousness, the moment you reveal that love, two things happen. When you love a person, sometimes you take away from them the capacity to hurt you. But another thing happens. When you love them, everything about them that's going to hurt you, you're going to see it. Now, and you want to make the decision for the greater good, which means if their presence is going to be disturbing or difficult for, which means because in order for them to change, because you cannot change a person has to want to change before they can change. Therefore, when you embrace them with love, you take away capacity for them to love you, you're going to know right away, and with that love, you can let go. You can let go. Sometimes you have to let go. The other way is people come to companies with many things. A person comes to a company with some of, we mistake we say, with all the garbage, all the baggage from past life. Then, because when you're born, you take the positive and negative of your mother's lineage. You take the positive, negative of your father's lineage together. Everything that happened to your mother while you were in the womb, bad or good, become your karma. The day you're born, whereas a particular planetary body that ruled that day, that's your karma. The way you are raised, bad or good, that is your karma. And the way they spoke to you while you were growing up. If they said to you, oh, you're mean, or you cannot do anything right, you're stupid, or whatever, that's your karma. That's difficult to change. Because after 11 years of age, that's it. In most cases, people are cooked, which means people will go from therapist to therapist to try to figure out how to erase that thing. Now, but when a person is in a company setup, one of the things that just neutralizes that aspect of them, is to create an environment which is hard to do. When you create a loving environment, because love is a vibration that transmutes a precious stone, like an ordinary stone in a precious stone. Now, in a company setup, you don't want to wait forever for a person to be productive and take the time that it'll take in order to. So, if you create a daily atmosphere where you, on an ongoing basis, put the person in check, certain level of love and support, they'll change. That's hard.
Beautiful, Doctor.
Yeah.
And I have another question that it might seem a little bit odd, but I have a couple of entrepreneurs that have reached me that they are so successful that they want to give back.
Yeah.
Sort of what you said, give back. But they come to me to ask me, where should they give back? And this is something that has struck me, because they are not connected to the cause. So let's say you had somebody here in the audience who was very successful and wanted to start his philanthropy, wanted to start the practice of giving back. How do you connect him or her to the actual cause they might do? Because I'm worried that if I suggest anything, they just think it's writing checks. And it doesn't go through to the system, right? So how do you connect somebody that is successful to the cause they are here to lead in the world?
Yeah. Wherever you're giving, or wherever a person is giving, you want to give in order to create a platform to make a difference, whether small or massive, into either the community or in the world. But you have to have a connection to the source, which means You have to inquire, you have to connect, and then you have to give joyfully. The moment you give joyfully, it's going to come back, of course, yeah. But you usually, because there are two forms of giving, there are many forms, but I'll reduce it to two. There's where you give and you don't want to be known, which means you want the reward to come from heaven. You give, you don't want to be known, and then you tell the universe, whatever it is, take care of it. And then there where you actually give and then you are known. You're actually known. So you give in that way. Now, every time you give, you have to always give knowing that, because giving is a divine impulse. Wanting to give, giving is an extension of love, because love gives. You know, when we're young, we collect a lot of things, but when we're ready to leave the world, we get rid of everything. So death is teaching us how to give back. That's why when a person leaves the world, they get rid of everything, because they're learning, because we're born in order to love, and then we die in order to learn not to hate, to learn to give. So the act of giving is expressed when we're living in the earth. Now, but when you're giving, you're just giving to make a difference, because you would like to give in a way as to be a force for good. But most important is you need to be connected in some way, whether it's anonymous or you want to be known. Just have a certain level of connection with what you're giving, and knowing that you're giving and many people will benefit from it. So you should always give to a source that is servicing many other people, which means that when they receive it, it's going to make such a difference in their lives. It'll be like an act from heavens. They're like, my God, you know, this is the last thing we were expecting. That will be rewarded from the heavens. And that you're giving is the most powerful way of giving. Now, if you're giving, because sometimes if you're giving to a person because they expect to get it and you give it, of course, there will be some level of light, but it's not going to be to the degree where you're just giving to impact massive amount of people that you're not going to see, even you're not even going to know them in your life, will be touched by your giving.
And Doctor, last thing, because I know your time is precious. I was amazed to see when I read a lot about you that you are actually a mentor to leaders, not only to regular people, but actually to political leaders, company leaders, to very important people in the world. So I'm curious to learn what's your view on leadership? That's my first. Whatever you want to take that question, and the second question around that, and the final one would be, when you get somebody that is so important in front of you, how do you mentor somebody that is, how do you mentor when a president of a country is in front of you? How do you approach when you have a leader that is so powerful, so important? What do you tell? How do you work with these people?
Carlos, I'm talking to them the same way I'm talking to you. With love. If you think of 10% of people leading the world, and you see 90% of people are impacted by 10%. What's the fastest way to impact the 90%? The 10%. For a person to run companies like you're doing, they already have to have certain leadership capacities that are innate. They have to be visionaries. They have to have integrity. They have to have discipline. And they have to have the desire to hold the space in order to help other people in their journey. They have to be able, directly or indirectly, to tap to their inner sense, that inner wisdom. And they are happy to help other people tap in that inner wisdom. So it's always, for me, it has always been a privilege to serve. When you're serving some of the 10% which impact 90% of the world, then you rapidly impact the 90%. Because if you think of a tree with the root and the leaves, the fastest way to address the tree is through the root, the 10%. Because if you go from leaves to leaves, you may spend a lot of lifetimes getting there. And the other thing is the desire to actually serve, because what I do, what I do will affect you, will affect others. What other people do will affect me. I have to be able to think of others as an extension of me, as a reflection of me, which is because we are all interconnected. And then life is interactions. Life flows through our interaction with each others. So we all have the same destiny because we are all interconnected. So it's important for us to do this. And I'm sure you're giving a lot of advice to a lot of people who are in very successful in high places. It's important because we're moving people beyond the illusion, the false illusion of separations, so that they can embrace the reality of love. And then from there, a leader can extend loving kindness to every single members of everyone that they're working with in their pyramid. And through that loving kindness, when you extend your loving, if I can touch them in a loving way with this amazing spiritual technology I have been blessed with, even though my background is engineering, and if they can extend that loving kindness to everyone that crossed their path, not only would they develop more serotonin in the brain, which means the feel-good hormone, but it will strengthen their health. Giving is one of the most powerful ways to strengthen the health apparatus, but at the same time, to develop the feel-good hormones in the brain. Because when you make a difference in a person's life and you're giving them happiness, it's a joy to see that happens. Yeah. So in the search for wealth, success, love, and all of these things, as we are accumulating that, some people have already accumulated it. Those who are blessed by the universe, who've already achieved it, and others are still trying to accumulate that. And by us doing what we do and helping, then we change the equations, which mean that we now bring consciousness in the entire system. We bring consciousness in the entire economic system. We bring consciousness in the entire prosperity market. And that consciousness is an expression of light. And where there is light, the darkness progressively disappears. And right now, the world needs a lot of love. Right now, the world needs a lot of light. Right now, we need a lot of peace. But we will never have peace until we have reverence for women, because the woman is a symbol of love. In other words, we will never have peace until we embrace love. And the moment we embrace love, it'll give birth to light, it'll give birth to peace, it'll give birth to joy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haben. A round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.